Oh, hey there. This is Josh. It is Thursday, November 20th, and we find that sometimes stocks don't go higher. So, what do we do with that as investors? Most of us have a playbook that requires stocks to go higher to benefit from. And part of the message of Miiflo is to let you know that there are investing playbooks that exist that allow you to benefit and to grow assets, even even if stocks don't go higher. In fact, if they go higher, lower, or sideways. And so, with today being a great case where we actually are going lower, let's just look at the types of ideas that are generated in the model that our users have access to tomorrow to deploy, so that even if we continue in a downward fashion or sideways, they have things that they can do to actually grow assets while that happens. So let's start with the S&P 500. Kind of a yucky day in the S&P. This now puts us from the high. This now puts us right about 5.5% from the high. Pretty plain Jane vanilla pullback. But what's interesting to me is we're seeing a big spike in volatility in short term. So that means that fear is really creeping in here. Now, markets bottom, I'll remind you, markets bottom when everyone is afraid. So this is a beginning of a measure of there being a fairly decent bit of fear. We're not exactly in a typically fearful time of the year historically, but I'd go back here to April where we had a similar move. This was back when we announced the tariffs. Yeah, and that led to a pretty healthy sell-off. We could, I think, pretty easily from the high get to that 10% range, which would put us, 6250-ish. And that can happen in pretty short order as long as that stays in place. So like, what do? If you have a vesting playbook that is built on just going higher, do you just take it on the chin and wait for that? What can you do? So let's take a look at the ideas in Miiflo for tomorrow. So this is the flow. So these are all ideas generated for tomorrow. And it is giving us a lot of potential things to do. Now, one thing that I'll point out that I saw immediately, a lot of these being generated were buy put butterflies. So what is this? This is a complex option spread that benefits if prices go lower. So I'll just highlight one of these, for example. So here's an IWM. This is the Russell 2000. So this tracks the Russell 2000 index. Let's look at the Russell 2000 index. This is an ETF, the IWM. So it's looking for this to move to a specific price. And you can see that this big magnet here right around 220. And so this idea is looking over the next 20 days to move towards that 216, 220 area. It costs $1.92. So that's about $192 per spread to get into that. And if we are at 216 in about 40 days, the max profit is $1,000. So almost, five-fold return in pretty short order. So here's an actual investing idea that has some defined risk. And as long as we stay below 239.10, so if I go back to the chart here, so if I stay above the high of today, we're looking for it to get down to this price and just kind of spend some time down here. Now, it could come down here and wiggle and pause. That's okay. But the idea is this something that can deploy while the market goes lower? And these are the types of ideas that Miiflo comes up with every day. And I noticed this, right when the model ran, that we had a whole bunch of ideas that immediately, stood out there on opportunities to the downside. Also, another great investment type of idea that can occur when markets are not going higher are iron condors. So what is this? This is built around a stock that may be going sideways or anticipating it's going to go sideways. Here's a Vago, right? This is an iron condor. Now, it's about $4,000 of capital that you deploy, but the max profit is $2,000, and that's over 20 days. And if we look at that, that's actually our pick for tomorrow. So 2,000 is the max profit. We're going to look for 1,000 as a really good probable return, but as long as we stay between 415 and 300, okay, so remember that 415 and 300, okay, so 300 and 415, we're nowhere close to those prices. As long as we're between those prices, for the next 20 days, this idea, this investment will gain value, meaning that Avago does not need to go higher. It can just go sideways between those prices in the next 20 days, and that will actually gain value. In fact, there's an 80% probability that you'll see that target profit when you enter. And then the management is really easy. So those are a couple examples. If you're feeling today, or you read the news, it's a little concerning about the potential exposure to your retirement investing and your retirement plan, which I think is always good to be mindful of, and you are interested in a different investing playbook, I just want to say there are different playbooks out there, and Miiflo is here to help you tap into that playbook. Perhaps as a mix of how you're trying to save towards retirement, that can offer some pretty attractive opportunities, especially when markets don't go up. All right. Let us know if you have any questions. Love to help you out and get you started tapping in this playbook. Cheers.